Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar on Reaching Milestones. I'm your Learning Community Facilitator, Natalie Sweet, and we'll be talking tonight about how the various milestones in History 113 and 114 come together to make your final project. Now, if you're joining us for this webinar today, you're probably past week 2. During week 2, you completed milestone 1, and you may now be wondering how the milestones fit together to form your final project. We'll be having a tiny bit of review about milestone 1 if you joined us for last week's webinar, but we'll also be piecing it together with milestone 2 and 3 to see where it takes us in future weeks. Remember, there are three milestones, and each of those 3 milestones make up a component of your final paper. In milestone 1, as you know, you worked on your thesis statement. But in milestones 2 and 3, you're going to be building additional paragraphs that will work as the trends section of your final project paper and as the evidence section. All good historical analysis papers contain these 3 elements. So let's talk about how those elements fit and work together. Now, as you know from our previous webinar, Milestone 1 contains the thesis. This presents the position that you're going to take within your paper. It is the argument of your paper. It forms the heart of the paper. It also informs the reader of the direction of your paper. In other words, if the only part of your paper was the thesis that our reader read, they would still know the information that you were going to present within the paper because you have provided them with enough direct supporting information. Now, it is my recommendation to you as you move forward working on the final project that you take a sticky note and that you write your working thesis on that sticky note and that you post it somewhere to your computer or your workspace. Because what that is going to do, it's going to keep you on track as you read through your sources because you will be looking for evidence eventually to support that thesis, and it's going to help guide you as you write so that you stay on topic as you move forward. So that is your guiding star. Now that was submitted during week 2, and you probably either have feedback or you're awaiting feedback on that assignment, but you will have it by the end of week 3. In week 4, you're actually going to encounter milestone 2. And what milestone 2 does is it looks at trends in history. What are we talking about when we're talking about trends? Looking at trends is important to a historical analysis paper. It helps your reader understand the world in which the event took place, and it also explores patterns that led to the event that you are talking about. And sometimes when students hear trends, that's sometimes confusing. I know I've had students ask me, trends is like, are we talking about Facebook trends? Are we talking about trends like fashion? What does that mean? Well, the easiest way to think about trends is to think about when you're creating the trends section, you are setting the scene for what you're going to talk about. Uh, think about, and this is, like I said, this is the easiest way that a lot of people have found to understand it. Think about a television show that you really enjoy watching. Typically, there's something called a pilot episode, that first episode that helps set the scene for a show. Popular show right now is Game of Thrones. And within that pilot episode, you are immediately given background information on what is going on this imagined world. You learn that there was a war that occurred some 15 years before the events of the show, but that those events had a significant effect on the world that you're watching within the show today. The war resulted in the king that you currently see in the throne. It helped set up the rivalries and alliances that you see within the show. And the show introduces that information within the pilot episode because they want to make their watchers feel at ease within as they're presenting this world. So your trend section does the same thing that pilot episode is doing. It helps your reader understand the world the event is taking place in. So let's say that the class that you're in is History 114, and you chose to talk about the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory Fire, which is an event that led to stricter labor laws within the United States. It is important for your reader to understand what was going on in the world at the time so that they can understand people's reaction to the fire when it took place. They need to understand what thoughts on labor laws were, or if there were labor laws prior to the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire. Since many young women and girls, immigrant women and girls, uh, died in the fire, it's also important for them to understand how immigrant and women workers were viewed in American society at the time, too, because then that as well helps them later to understand the reaction to that event. So, in other words, with the trends section, you are setting the scene so that your reader will better understand the evidence that you will then present. And where the evidence comes in is in milestone 3. In milestone 3, you're going to return to the 3 supporting claims that you made within that milestone 1 thesis statement. Now, taking those 3 supporting claims, you're going to build a paragraph of evidence around each claim. And that evidence that comes in this section will come from at least 2 of the primary and 2 of the secondary sources that can be found in the final project research kit. Now remember, you shouldn't be bringing in additional sources that were not provided to you within those e-materials, that final project research kit. It needs to only be those that were provided to you. But those sources will be used to support that evidence, to make your point, to support your claim. Let's go over the due dates for these assignments. Milestone 1, as you knew, was due during week 2. Milestone 2, the trends, will be due during week 4. And it's during milestone 3 that you're going to put together the evidence portion of your paper. Now, once you reach the end of week 6 and during week 7, you're actually going to be prompted within the templates of your e-materials to write your introduction and your conclusion. Now, the great thing about all of this is that once you have all of this information placed within the templates, your final project paper will actually already have all of the elements within it by the time that you reach week 8. You'll be able to download a document that includes your introduction with your thesis statement, followed by your setting the scene with the trends, followed by your evidence, and then your conclusion. In other words, you will have wrapped it all up, and it's all thanks to doing that work within the templates. Now, this is a key point. Remember, all of your work should be completed within the templates of the e-materials. And that's really important during the editing process as well. So let's talk about that editing process. If you're listening to this webinar, you are likely in week 3 or beyond, which means that you have received feedback on at least milestone 1. So what should you do every week after there's a milestone assignment due? First, go back to that milestone. Once you are aware within the My Grades section that there is a grade in place, Go and review your instructor's feedback on your milestone. This is why this assignment is really great, guys. Yes, there are points tied to each of these milestone assignments. For example, milestone 1 is that 65 points. But here's the great thing, your instructor is going to give pointed feedback to you. They're going to leave feedback within your assignment. They're going to leave feedback in the comment section and within the embedded rubric. And you can take that feedback and then apply it. Let's say if we were talking about your thesis, maybe your instructor noted, well, you only made 2 supporting claims and there needs to be a third. You can go back and add that third claim, which means then when your instructor goes to grade your thesis in the final project, theoretically, you will have already taken their feedback and brought it up to a proficient or exemplary level, meaning that you can get an excellent score on the final project when the time comes. Now, again, as I just stated, the most important thing is not only that you do your work for the milestones within the templates, but also that you return to do your edits within the templates. And I recommend that you do the edits as soon as you have that feedback from your instructor. Return to the template where you completed the assignment to do the edit. It's going to save you time in the long run because it's going to add it to that final project paper that you download at the end of the term. It's also going to ensure that you keep your paper properly formatted as you move through the class each week. So, again, edit, complete the first draft within the template and do your edits within the template as well. And this is the key advice I want to leave you with as we wrap up this webinar. View each milestone as an opportunity to complete a portion of your final project and to receive feedback from your instructor. That final project is worth a significant portion of your final grade. If you're going back, making the edits as you go along, you're going to receive a good score on that final project assignment at the end of the term, and you'll have already known how you're doing along the way thanks to the feedback from your instructor. And remember too that if you have any follow-up questions, please come to our History 113, 114 learning community. There are opportunities to pick up time management skills, to get feedback on your milestones and your final project. And you can also make study buddies within the community to help you stay accountable and also have an extra pair of eyes to give you friendly words of encouragement as you move forward. So come visit the learning community. We look forward to seeing you there, and we do hope that you'll join us next week too as we go into an in-depth dive of trends.